Have occasionally focused on the possibility of nuclear war, yet it seems that all past discussions and articles on nuclear war, even all the depictions and references to it in other movies, paled compared to The Day After. And it's the very vividness of the movie we've just seen that has made The Day After the most controversial movie ever shown on American television.
Let's do a lot of exercise.
And on Foxtrot, 1, 5.
That's light switch, enable. I'm not supposed to start it.
Take the pressure off before it's too late. Call 1-800-NUCLEAR.
Tonight, viewers in some communities were asked to pick up their phones and call in if what they saw scared them enough. The nuclear freeze and disarmament movement saw this film coming a long time ago and are rallying around tonight's showing to convince people that nuclear armaments may bring us closer to nuclear war. ABC, of course, saw it coming too, though the network claims there's no political message here. Last month, residents of Lawrence were invited to a special screening of the film.
It was really heavy.
Well, I hope that's as close to war as any of us get. It was pretty shocking.
Well, it's going to make you think, I guess. Do a lot of thinking.
What the film tries to do is to make vivid and sobering the reality of what is possible, and to make us think twice or rethink, or most important of all for most people, I think, to confront the issue in the first place.
It is incredible to me that such a one-sided presentation could be made.
The Reverend Jerry Falwell couldn't ignore ABC's showing of the movie. During a scheduled speaking stop in Kansas City last week, Falwell gave The Day After a bad review and then some.
The conclusion has been, hey, it's all over. There's going to be a nuclear holocaust. There's no way to avert it. And so why don't we just right now, whatever is second worst is not that bad. Let's do what we have to do.
Falwell, members of his moral majority and the so-called nuclear right, urged viewers to boycott the movie's commercial sponsors. There's no doubt the showing of The Day After has coaxed us out of our apathy regarding nuclear war. Arguments for and against nuclear armaments have been made in newspapers and magazines for months now. People are talking like they've never talked before about the whole question of nuclear armaments. But labeling it as entertainment has provoked criticism from many quarters. For example, this morning's Kansas City Star editorialized, quote, "The television drama that purports to show the destruction of Kansas City and the aftermath of nuclear war clearly is an attempt to persuade politically and, in the end, to influence American foreign policy."
We're going to go on the air.
One way or the other?
One way or the other.
The Reagan administration or anybody in that administration contact you about the film at all?
We're going on the air.
And they did show the film. But interestingly, the first national audience to see this American-made movie was not American.
That's right, Larry. The Day After opened 3 days ago, this past Thursday, in West Germany, where the debate over the installation of U.S. Pershing missiles on West German soil is at fever pitch. ABC's Jim Hickey reports on how the movie was received.
Though every member of the West German parliament was invited, the special screening of The Day After attracted only a few politicians. German anti-nuclear activists who helped arrange for the showing had hoped it might influence a parliamentary debate next week on deployment of Pershing II and cruise nuclear missiles.
But I think a lot of committed people will be reinforced by this film in their feelings, and that many people who might be on the verge will be frightened by it very much.
The film examines what could happen during and after a nuclear attack. The action takes place around Kansas City. But because of the real-life missile debate here, and because of what develops in the fictional nuclear war, West Germans will find the film especially relevant.
It seems the Russians just invaded West Germany.
The Day After makes no attempt to blame anyone for starting the war. In that way, it is non-political. It is emotional.
The future looks deadly for me now.
I fear it's surrealistic. Maybe it's even worse than they have shown.
It was really shocking, and it has shown that we have to keep freedom.
Though its message is powerful, the film is unlikely to alter the decision to deploy missiles in Germany. Dieter Weyrich was one of the few members of parliament to show up at the screening.
This movie has no influence to the political debating in Germany.
The film will open in German theaters on December 2nd. That's about the same time the Pershing II and cruise missiles will be arriving. Jim Hickey, ABC News, Bonn.
The Day After will be shown next in Great Britain, another country torn politically over the question of installing American nuclear missiles on its soil. That showing will take place in December. Larry?
Brenda, with us now is a man many people call Mr. Kansas City, veteran and highly regarded newsman Walt Bodine. Walt, what is your personal reaction to the movie tonight?
Well, I already said it was very, very sobering, but I'd have to go beyond that and say that I have an even greater reaction to the panel I saw afterward. I couldn't believe some of the things I was hearing.
Such as?
Well, you know, first of all, you know, when we did a poll on this on the radio on KCUR, are you going to watch this movie or not? It came out, I'd say, close to 4-1 in favor of watching it. But the people who were against it had very pointed things to say about it. And there seems to be such a thing going on between left and right over this, where it's really a matter of life and death we're talking about, not left and right. And I looked at the whole thing. I listened to the man from FEMA, and I couldn't believe my ears. I think I heard him saying it would be tough. We couldn't get Kansas City steaks for a while. And I think I heard a lot of bureaucratic talk. But do you know where there's a shelter right now? From right here?
I think I would have to look around. I'm sure most people are that way.
Do you know how to find your way into one of those caves that's supposed to be full of Russian vodka and other food stuff? Do you know how? I don't.
I don't either.
And they sit there and talk blandly of that, but it simply doesn't exist.
So it seems like there'd have to be a massive educational effort started here very quickly.
Terrific. If we're going to go on with what we're doing. If we either have a bilateral, both sides talking about reducing arms, or do we keep on doing what we're doing and moving closer and closer, and at the same time the American public is totally unprotected. I look around at the civil defense people, and I have to say, with the exception of functioning in a few, yes, they know how to handle a tornado or two, but we weren't looking at a tornado tonight.
No, that wasn't a tornado.
And I think when it comes to this kind of stuff, they're a joke.
What generally did the people say who called in on your talk show on KCUR Friday night?
Well, it's interesting. The majority of people, as I say, said they were going to watch. A great many of those who were going to watch, however, were not going to let their children watch. They felt it was a little too much. And you know, one thing, that the hype that got going ahead of this, I think, got it to the point where there were such expectations. I think some people expected mass insanity in the streets immediately following the showing.
You, of course, you are a veteran observer of the Kansas City scene. How will we react tomorrow to this movie in Kansas City?
This is the most live and let live, no waves, roll with the punch town on the face of the earth. I think that for a day or two we'll talk about it, and some folks, probably Chamber of Commerce types, will say, golly, we were on national TV, you know. But as to the depth of its impact, I think the folks who are in the freeze movement will work harder than ever. The folks against the freeze movement will work harder than ever. And that great mass of people in the center, let's just hope they saw tonight what's at stake. They now know why those other people are so passionate.
Walt Bodine, thank you very much for joining us and giving us your comments on this very special evening.
Thank you.
Brenda?
Before the movie, politicians, educators, and parents debated hotly over whether and what age children should be allowed to watch The Day After, and if so, with whom. Here's what you told us before the movie.
I think they should let them see it because they're going to have to face it with everybody else when it happens.
And I think it would be educational for them to know what's going on and to be aware of the problems that they face.
I don't want them to watch it. I think it's, I don't know, it's something they should know about, but they don't need to know that much about it right now. They're too young.
It might be good for them to watch it, to know what to expect. There's always the possibility.
With me now, child psychologist Dr. Marilyn Metzel, who's just arrived here from having watched The Day After with her own children. She has 3 teenage sons who watched the movie with her. What was their reaction?
They were very distressed. My concern was that the movie might not portray some of the personal crises of the city, but they were visibly moved and visibly distressed and visibly concerned about what they could do. and what sort of action they can take.
How will you handle that as a mother?
Well, I think it's very important for them to speak about it and to discuss it with each other. And my big concern is that not only for my children, but for all children, that they not feel